Hi, Tom. Before we start talking about your short writing B, let's take a quick look at the assignment for this paper, and here it is. Um, for short writing B, I'd like you to write a one-page essay in which you tell me about someone you know who has worked hard and has gotten ahead. And I go on to say, what did they do that was such hard work? In what way have they gotten ahead? Give concrete examples of how hard they worked and provide evidence that they've actually gotten ahead. So before you'd start writing this paper, here's the kinds of things you might have thought about. What do I have to do in this paper? What do I have to do to get a good grade on short writing B? Well, because we've talked about it so much this semester, clearly one of the things you'll have to do is come up with a single clear thesis. And for this assignment, it's even clear what that thesis is going to look like. It's going to look like something like this. Blank worked hard and got ahead, where the blank is whoever you decide. In your paper, it's your grandfather. And then, in order to prove that your grandfather worked hard and got ahead, as I say up here in this second paragraph, in order to prove it, you're going to have to prove two things. You have to give evidence that proves that he worked hard and evidence that proves that he got ahead. So there's your task, and let's see how well you did on that task. We'll take a look at your paper now. And your paper starts off in a way that surprised me, in a good way. You start off by clarifying what you mean by getting ahead. Some people might think that getting ahead is being a millionaire or being a Major League Baseball player or a successful singer or something, but you define it as someone who works hard and is happy with where that gets them, where they are today. They're happy where they are today. That seems, I like that definition. And then you tell us that your grandfather is a prime example of somebody who got ahead as a result of hard work. So let's see what kind of evidence you provide that he worked hard. And I want to not start at the beginning of the paper. I want to start right down here, where you talk about the experience you had when you and your grandfather built a wall on the side of the house. And you say it took us all summer because he's a perfectionist. But I can't say I don't blame him because it turned out amazing. All right, now here was an opportunity to really show us how hard he worked. Here was a chance where, because you spent the summer with him, working, you saw what he did. Here was a chance to put in some concrete examples of what time in the morning he started, how many times he took part of it down and rebuilt it because it wasn't exactly plumb or right or whatever it was that he was being a perfectionist about. But you don't put any of that in there. You just tell us it took all summer, but you don't show us concrete evidence about how hard he worked. Now, I'm wondering why you didn't. Perhaps you were worried because I said I wanted a one-page paper, and you were already over one page, and you thought you didn't have room. But let's go up here. In this section up here, you tell all about his meeting your grandmother and their courtship and their getting married and so forth. Now, does that prove that he worked hard? Does it prove that he got ahead? No. So that really doesn't belong in this paper. That doesn't support the thesis. There you have a little bit of a unity problem. And if you'd taken that out, it would have given you 5 extra lines in which you could have put in concrete details about how hard he worked. Now, I think what happened was you were trying to prove that your grandfather was a responsible man. And you do prove that, and we all admire that in people. But that doesn't have to do with his hard work or his getting ahead. It has to do with his being responsible. And down in here, you also don't do much about how hard he worked. You say he must have worked hard because he got promoted to being a supervisor, but it would have been good if you talked about how hard it is to make train wheels in a steel mill. If you'd given us some concrete evidence, how many hours did he work? How many days a week did he work? How tired was he when he got home? How heavy were the things he had to lift? How dangerous was the work? But you don't do that. So one of the things you could do to improve this paper is more evidence that he worked hard. You're a little light on that. And then down here, you talk about he's enjoying his life. And golfing is a good concrete example. And I think that could also use a little more evidence. And then in the end, you end up with this weird sentence. It sounds at the end as if the issue was how hard he is on you and how much you love your grandfather. But wait a minute, this was a paper about someone who worked hard and got ahead. And it's like in the final sentence, you lost track of what the thesis was and what the point of the paper was. So because of those little mistakes like that with thesis and unity, I can't give you a perfect grade, but you did earn 22 points. Congratulations, I'll see you on Tuesday.